Hello, this is William Clark for the Last Stand podcast, and today, this is number 15 in the series of the book series that I'm putting up for YouTube. Today I want to talk about the resilience and the definition of courage, and kind of an insight for you younger guys out there who are watching this. When I say younger guys, anybody below the age of 35 or 40, in that area. I'm 72. I'm classified as part of the boomer generation. Hate that term, but that's who I am. I'm going to give you some insight on what the majority or a lot of men my age and 50s, 60s, some are in the higher 40s, actually feel about the warrior mentality and the warrior class definition that's being thrown about on the internet and in popular culture. A little bit of an insight into this mindset. All men, I'm not going to say all men, I'm going to say most men above the age of 40, 45 or 50, they identify with the last stand philosophy. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you reach the age of about 55, 50, 60, you're tired. And I'm not talking about a physical tiredness. I'm talking about an emotional tiredness. You're tired. You're tired of a lot of the nonsense you see in our reality, the amazing duplicity of people, the lies that people tell themselves to get through the day that usually somehow affects you. You're tired of false hope. You're tired of wanting something that you know you're not going to achieve. You're tired. You're emotionally and mentally tired. And if there would ever be an opportunity in your reality to make a last stand, a physical last stand against odds that you know are going to overwhelm you, probably physically end your life. This is a certainty. At this age, about 60 years old, maybe 55, 60, 65, you yearn for that kind of thing to happen. That last stand where it can finally be over, where you can finally pass through all the BS that you've been putting up with for the last 60 years and make a statement physically by fighting it out on that last stand. I know I feel that way. That's why I named my podcast what I named it. This is my last stand. I won't be doing anything else past this, probably of any significance. I'll write more books. I'll do more podcasts, but I've peaked out. I'm tired. And I do yearn for that final battle against overwhelming odds where I know I'm not going to make it. But I'm going to go down swinging. And I'll have a pile of empty magazines around me. And I'll be ankle deep in spent brass. And I'll be down to my last few rounds. And here they come. Doesn't matter now. Nothing matters now. I'm just going to move on to the next phase of my existence. But I will have gone down honorably. And that's the biggest fear a lot of men have nowadays. Ending everything, finishing everything with honor, with pride that you did your best. Against overwhelming odds, you did your best. You fought it out. And you fought it out, and you bled, and you cried out in pain, but yet you still kept fighting. And you eventually lost. but you went down with honor. Older men crave that. I crave that. Is it ever going to happen in my lifetime now? Probably not. As we get older as men, our bodies catch up with us, pathologies catch up with us, and we quietly go away in some hospice somewhere, or some hospital, if we're lucky at home. But we leave this earth without experiencing that honorable last stand. I crave it. I would look for it. If I knew where it was at, I'd go do it. Which leads me into why I wrote a certain book that I wrote. A long time ago, when I first started writing, about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, this question of this honorable exit out of this life as a man was prominent in my thinking. So I wrote a book and I researched a story about a last stand. And I'm not talking about Custer. I'm talking way back in 1706. This was up on the Swedish border of Selenia, Northern Europe, Scandinavia. There was a castle there that was guarded and manned by the Prussian army, Prussians, Germans. And there was a garrison of them there. And a garrison then was about 300 guys, Prussian soldiers, warrior class. Prussia was a warrior class based nation, pre-Germany. And this castle was manned by this garrison. It was an outpost out in the middle of nowhere on the Silesian border. Well, the Swedes and the Austrian armies wanted this territory, wanted this castle out of their area. And they were going to fight it out. Now, the Swedish army at this time was incredibly powerful. Thousands and thousands of soldiers, as were the Austrian army, Austrian Empire. And the Austrian Empire and the Swedish Empire made a treaty, because they didn't like each other anyway, and they fought all the time, made a treaty and an agreement to band together to destroy this Prussian-held castle. It's a true story. The Prussians were outnumbered 8 to 12 to 1. When the attack started, it was in mid-January, about 1709. And the fighting started out with cannon and cavalry charge and musket fire. The walls were eventually breached. The Prussian soldiers did not surrender. They fought it out inside the courtyards. They fought it out as they're backing up and retreating inside the castle. They retreated down into the sewer systems and the tunnel systems under the castle. And now it was hand-to-hand combat down in these tunnels and these sewers in complete darkness or by torchlight. They would not give up. The fighting lasted till mid-July of the following year, until the last Prussian soldier was killed. The castle was completely devastated. It was razed to the ground. All 300 Prussian soldiers were killed, all of them, every one of them. And not one of them deserted or ran away. They stood and fought, even though they were out of powder, they were out of shot. All they had were their swords. And by the way, the Prussian soldiers in those days, the Prussian guard, which was guarding this castle, they fought with both hands. They had a sword in one hand and a short dagger in the other. And they fought with both hands. They're trained that way. And this fighting went on for months and months and months. Thousands of Swedish and Austrian soldiers were killed in the attempt to take this castle. I wrote a book about it called Dragoons, The Sound of Sabers. It's a fictional book, but based on true accounts of the warrior class. True warrior class. You can imagine being one of those Prussian soldiers standing on those ramparts in the night, lit only by torchlight, looking out over the vast landscape and knowing that he had nowhere to go. He wasn't going to leave. And there were thousands of enemy out in the wood line getting ready to come after him. And he wasn't going to die of a high-velocity bullet fired from a quarter mile away or a mortar round fragment that would take him out at the speed of light. Now, he was going to go out in a sword fight. He was going to get hacked to pieces by bayonet or run through a sword. Close quarter. He would be able to smell the breath of his enemy. That's how close they were going to get. And it was going to get personal. Very personal. We're talking about this thing descending into a mass knife fight by torchlight in hip-deep water. You can imagine the horror of that. You can imagine the fear that that would bring. That's the warrior class. That's a very big and strong warrior class. I would have loved to have been in that castle that year, 1709. I would relish it, as would a lot of men my age now. We would like to find a last stand somewhere, besides some rest home somewhere, but besides some hospice somewhere, where we just wither away like some crippled wolf, unable to feed with the pack. I don't want to go out that way. I want that last battle. I want that last stand. And I think you do too. My demographics of people who watch my YouTube are 35, 40, 40, 50, 60 years old. But I know there's some young guys out there too. And what I want to tell you as a young guy, a young soldier, a young man in this reality, do not run away from the idea of a last stand. Do not. You face it head on. You face that threat head on. You don't run from it. You relish it. It is a privilege in this life to leave this life in an honorable endeavor. Sound familiar? It's one of the books I wrote called An Honorable Endeavor. The point is, seek it. Maybe not physically, but mentally, emotionally, in all that you do. Realizing that your honor and your integrity and your word equals a courage that you can manifest in all situations. The last stand. The honorable exit out of this reality, whatever this reality is. Now, life is wonderful. Life's a gift. It's beautiful. I enjoy my life. I have a lovely woman in my life. I've got all the material possessions I need, I want. But I do crave that last battle, that last test of courage against overwhelming odds that I know that I'm not going to win, but I'm going to go down swinging. I think we all crave that. We shouldn't be afraid of that. And we shouldn't apologize for the warrior class mindset that all men should have. I'm a sensitive guy, but I don't wear it on my sleeve. And it's not a title that I wear. The title that I wear is honorable man. That's what I wear. And it guides me in my day-to-day life. And I don't apologize for that. You shouldn't either. We're men. For you ladies out there, I'm not being a chauvinist. I'm letting you know the mindset of a lot of men. And they're seeking it. They're looking for it. They try to find it in steroids and pumping iron. And they're frustrated. They're angry because they know that what they're seeking is out there, but they just can't see it. You never do really see it until it's right on top of you, which I think is by design. So what I want to tell you guys out there is that it's okay to feel that way, because a lot of us do. A lot of us do. And a lot of young men now, SEALs, Special Operations guys, Rangers, paratroopers, Army, Marine, Coast Guard, U.S. Marshals. All these young guys are seeking that final battle. They may not admit it, but they're looking for it. A lot of men, like I said, now are tired. They're tired of the nonsense. They're going to provide for the family, and they're going to hang in there. They're not going to self-unlive themselves. Stupid statement. But they seek it deep in here. So when they see a commercial and they see Jon Snow standing with his sword, bloody from battle, and he's out in that field by himself, and that music rises, and he looks on the horizon, and he sees nothing but horse soldiers in armor coming at him. And he pulls that sword one more time under imaginable fatigue, but yet he grips it with both hands, and he's saying to himself, bring it. Let's go. Let's finish this. A lot of men in this world today, in the United States, worldwide, are holding the sword and saying, let's finish this, because we're tired. We'll do what we got to do. We'll maintain the lifestyle we need to maintain for our families. But in our hearts, we're looking for that last stand, that glorious end to the nonsense. I just wanted to bring that to you today and let you know about it, give you my feelings about this warrior class thing. It's an easy thing to say. He's a warrior. It's harder to achieve than you think, and it takes real courage. Classic example is UFC fighters. I don't think you realize how much courage it takes to put some gloves on, walk down that hallway, open that cage, you get in there, and fist fight some guy till he knocks you or you knock him unconscious. How much courage it takes that. Without fear of being injured, just doing it. That's a warrior class. You can call it a brawler, you can call it primitive, you can call it barbaric. Point is, those are just names. What he's doing is courage. The Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, the Ranger, the paratrooper, the 82nd Airborne guy going out the door of a C-130 with a full Weesey bag on a 12-foot static line over Normandy, DZ at Fort Bragg. Warrior class. That Coast Guardsman out there in the bay running down some cigarette ship full of dope and bad guys at 3 o'clock in the morning under a FLIR. Warrior class. That Air Force fighter pilot flying over Yemen somewhere and maybe get a SAM-7 fired at him, comes back down and takes it out. That's warrior class. I'm not advocating violence, folks. I'm just giving you an insight into the mindset of men nowadays, of some men. A lot of young men have been compromised. They've been compromised in their feelings. They've been compromised in who they are. And that's sad. That's for another video. This is William Clark for The Last Stand Podcast, and I want to thank you for the thumbs up and all the good stuff. Please subscribe, send me a comment. And if you want a great read about the warrior class, the real warrior class, Dragoons, The Sound of Sabers by William Clark. It's on Amazon. Give it a read. You'll get a kick out of it. And let me know what you think. For all you men out there who are looking for the last stand, keep looking. Keep your heart pure. It'll find you one way or another. Good luck. And like I always say, you can't be safe. You be sanitary out there. Thank you. William Clark out.